welcome to my cellar. Just came in from outdoors. What a glorious aroma. Gunpowder and cannabis. Wow. Yeah, we're in the middle of 4th of July season. Where I live, they'll be shooting fireworks off for another 5, 6, 8 nights every once in a while, now and again. So anybody who's got a pet that reacts badly is just going to be all jittery for the next several days, which is unfortunate. All right, got a lot of things to talk about tonight. The very funny thing about WotC's whitewashing is it actually casts the player characters as the villains. Very good. In a setting where the whole Orc family goes out for a wholesome hunting expedition with Grandma Orc and Baby Orc, and the player characters who kill those orcs are the villains. And since D&D is a game about killing monsters and all the rules involve fighting monsters, there's really no other guided way for players to interact with them. There's no evil to struggle against. How can you have heroes? I think that's a very excellent question. I truly do. This isn't the real world. This is a game. Just like Monopoly's not the real world. It's a game. Railburn's not the real world. It's a game. Hey Tim, as an editor, could you describe in detail the AD&D shield spell? I got a buddy trying to rules lawyer me and howling about how crazy I am for how I run the spell. I say the wizard casts a spell, gets the AC as detailed, and then you count in dexterity defense adjustment. He says no. But every addition from 3E to 5E adds your dexterity to the bonus. Well, I'm sorry, I got bad news for you. He's right. No, it's a shield. Dexterity bonus is about you leaping around on your toes, avoiding slices and gashes and rocks falling and what have you. The shield is the shield is the shield. So your rules lawyer in this case is right. Now, if you want to make it different in your world, that's your choice. But as written, it is a shield that acts as an invisible barrier. It doesn't dive around with you. It's there. Your rules lawyer was right this time. Score 1 for the rules lawyers. On monster humanism, question, what benefits do you think reading old fairy tales could have to alleviate this rush to civilize monsters made by players who act like murder hobos? Well, I think if you read some of the older tales, particularly some of the Western European tales, the Grimms and the Celtic, the Scandinavian, the Finnish, you would certainly not see them as humans. Now, they might not be bloodthirsty brutes, but they certainly aren't nice. No, they're not nice. We're going to talk about nice and not nice in a little while. Heroes and heroines from fairy tales often act in ways that wouldn't stand up to much criticism. They usually don't jibe with modern sensibilities, but they transport readers into a mystical frame of mind outside the norms of everyday life. Isn't that what we're playing for? Yeah, I would say we are. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're not really trying to become rail barons. We're not really trying to become power tycoons. But we play at it because it's fun. Okay, here we go. Natural hazards and random events. In your capacity as the force behind the wheel of blame, you epitomize on-the-fly DMing of random game elements. So, my question is, how to best utilize randomly generated events played on the fly? Well, I do on the fly, but I don't I don't rely on tables and charts. I don't react to tables and charts. My on the fly is, okay, you gave me 2 items. I just created an encounter based on what those 2 items suggested to me. That part is definitely on the fly. As I have no idea what's going to happen in any of these encounters, yes, I DM on the fly, but most of us do the same thing when we're called upon to make a quick decision. Something happens. What do you do? Not every thing that happens has a rational or a logical or a legislated procedure to resolve it. How to best utilize randomized events? Well, they sure as hell shake the players up, especially if it's something that comes out of left field. All right, they then generally tend to sharpen their senses and pay a little more attention as to what the hell is going on. Excuse me. Seems like rolling up a random occurrence in a game is a good way to spice things up, but how does one do it without risking an equally random total party kill? What are some tips for keeping things fresh without risking the whole game falling apart? Well, first tip would be, don't let it happen. Don't be a slave to whatever dice you're rolling on or whatever table you're rolling on. Use your metrics to temper what some chart or table has dictated to you. How do you do that? Well, you have whatever, for whatever reason, fail a morale check, and so they bug out. Run away. Hey, monsters are smart too. They know that it's better to live to fight another day. Now that I'm giving the higher levels here, not necessarily the the lowest ones, but every creature has a sense of self-preservation. If they didn't, their species would be extinct. So if it's going against, or it might go against, run away. If it looks like the party's in dire straits, have something happen. Have something funny happen. Lighten the mood. Let them all get a laugh. They go, oh Jesus, how did we escape that? What? All right, those are the tales that get shared around the metaphorical campfire. The great escapes just as well as the great successes and the near misses. Just a quick comment on any influence any company might have on gameplay. While the owners of various online RPG platforms may restrict freedom of playing games played on their service, we can all play anywhere, anytime, any way we want. Case in point, my high school chums and I were sent on a charity walk by our school, covering 10 miles, so we gamed the whole time. No paper or pens, no dice, just a digital wristwatch. We played a percentile system back then, and our imaginations. The central tension in the RPG industry is that you can't sell people their own game. You can only sell them some ideas. It's up to the players how much of any rule book or scenario or anything anyone puts out that they use. Hasbro, in trying to migrate TTRPGs to online gaming, are trying to convince their way into making a market that doesn't need to exist. All you need to play online is a connection. The rest you can do with a digital watch and some imagination. Good point. Excellent point. I always play my monsters as families or groups. One of these groups was literally having a picnic, tearing apart a horse they caught. It's great fun. Okay. All right. one of a couple comments along this line. Justin has single-handedly banned himself from all major conventions and numerous small ones that have heard of him. What a way to start a gaming legacy, by being a complete jackass to everyone he tries to associate with. What more can I say to that? Okay. D&D is Hasbro's IP, has been in publication long enough that most everyone has had time to work out their own style of playing. Almost, but not quite, public domain. Yeah, but keep in mind, there's always newbies. Hey, what's that game now? Oh, I heard about that. Okay. There might be 28, there might be 18, there might be 12. There's always newbies. We hope. Otherwise, we're all doomed to die, being the gaming field. It might be best for Hasbro to sell it to a caretaker of sorts that maintains the related websites and lays out general guidelines for turning play. Protects the IP, no more expansions. Just gives a generic approval for modules, monsters, and other related material. Players can then pick and choose rules that best fit their group's playstyle. Orcs and other evil monsters. Players need adversaries that can be cleaved in twain without worrying about our modern world's moral relativism. That's good. That's a very good phrase, and that's what we're seeing here is all this relativism about, oh, it's bad, it's icky. Well, today it is, certainly, but we're not playing today. Anyway, if the group has to have in-depth philosophical discussions before wading into each and every battle, then one can see them getting very little done each gaming session. Just let the players have fun while escaping from their real-world troubles for a short time. I agree. Completely and wholeheartedly. I agree. Hold a minute. Thank you. A frequent dose of tonsil oil is often required. This whole business of WotC going PC reminds me of when 2nd edition removed devils and demons and replaced them with, yeah, right, Tannery and Badazu. Pardon me. It felt like a knife in the back to all of us, Gary included, who fought back hard to calm the fears of parents, teachers, preachers, and etc. during the satanic panic. I also heard not long ago that the writer who created Drizzle, as I like to refer to him, I know him, I know the author, it's just a private thing. I met him at a Tracy Hickman's Killer Breakfast, and he's a nice guy, and he said to me, yeah, I know I'm probably one of the most hated authors by DMs in the world right now, and this was several years ago, because Drizzle was fighting everything two-handed. The writer who created Drizzle now feels, due to complaints he's received, that his rendering of the character was a negative portrayal of people of color, so he intends to rebrand the character in a more positive light. That and what you're seeing WotC do now is a natural progression of what happens when you capitulate to the mob. They will only increase their demands. That's true, and I hope he doesn't do that. I hope he doesn't. Okay, here's a comment on my rant. Filed for bankruptcy, failing at it. Owes $1 million to WotC when this is done. Well, between WotC and their lawyers, that's probably close. Charged with tax evasion by using other businesses to pay his debts by commingling funds. Correct. Fighting endlessly with his wife and had his wife arrested for physical abuse. Correct. Loses lawsuits left and right. Justin is not going to get out of this whole thing intact. He's circling the bowl. Yes, he is. All right. With Goodman, Trolls, and so many indies out there, I see no reason to ever support Wizbro again. Okay. I don't see any reason to either if you don't need anything they have. You know, I mean, I don't see any reason to support pick somebody. If I don't need what they've got, I don't have to support them. If I don't like what they have, I don't have to buy it. Okay, there was recently somebody named Rex, Rhexx. I suspect that's probably an online name. Did a thing about the boule. All right. Other than not giving you creative credit, I thought Mr. Rex made a compelling ecology of the boule video. Did he get the ideas from you, or is it something he made up? If he made it up, is it along the lines you would go? Well, the boule is a funny thing. I own the IP. Hasbro doesn't own it. WotC doesn't own it. I do. One of the many mistakes Bloom's made early on was they had none of us ever sign anything that said that whatever we did belonged to the company. So basically, we all retained our IP. And then later on, after I left, they decided, oops, and that caused creative and further problems. But anyway, so on the one hand, do I give a damn what anybody does to the boule or whether I got creative credit? Not really. But yes, it's not your IP to fool with. Some of what he put in there was accurate, and I didn't have time to waste watching whatever the hell else he did. On the one hand, I don't give a damn. On the other, don't you go screwing with my monsters. But hey, he's one guy. I can't afford a lawyer that I can pay for with enough of what I squeeze out of one guy. And I don't intend to squeeze one guy. You can play any monster any way you want. That's always been a core tenet of the game and of all fantasy role-playing. I don't have a problem if people want to play good orcs. Whatever. Their game. My problem is that now orcs are just humans with tusks, aesthetically speaking. Yeah, bad dentist. If you're going to turn orcs into humans morally, culturally, etc., then at least make them look significantly different. Otherwise, just play humans with bad teeth. Why not? All right, another comment. I think they, meaning Wiz and Hasbro, will keep making it the way they do even if people don't buy it. They don't get it. They are in their own vacuum, just like Hollywood. Yes and no. I'd be willing to bet that few, if any, 5e players watch this video. It's not what it's intended. It's intended for anybody that wants to watch it. But what I speak about is not 5e. Pardon me. Got something in there. They don't watch it. I'm not aiming at them. The Wiz Bros, WotC, is responsible for producing a product that people will buy. If they will keep buying the Drek that they're putting out, Drek, in my opinion particularly, if what people are willing to keep shelling out their hard-earned bucks for that Drek, that's what Hasbro's job is. That's what the Wizard's job is to extract that money from the gaming industry. Produce a product that makes them a profit. When it no longer makes a profit, they'll probably shelve it, bury it. Who knows? I probably won't be here to find out. So, Let's see. Okay, the issue is that they're changing the core tone of TTRPGs in general. D&D is the eldritch elephant in the room. It emanates influence throughout the entire industry, and worse yet, it reinforces moral relativist ideals in the hearts and minds of young people. Well, I don't know about that. That's par for the course, in my opinion. Is hardly the only influence of such things. Gone are the days of good versus evil, and D&D as a brand. Well, I don't know. The current product might reinforce this relativism shit. But there was no... It was damned infrequent to find an orc that you didn't want to kill or wanted to kill you. You know, if you want to make friends with the local orcs, that's your campaign. That's fine. Not saying you can't do it. Not saying that any races can't. Well, most races can coexist. Not saying they can't. And worse yet, it reinforces moral relativist ideals in the hearts and mind of young people. Yeah, this relativism has got to go. That's par for the course. Hardly the only influence of such things. Okay. Yeah, I see in 5 years a group of today's 5e players playing a group of today's 2e or 1e players. And the younger ones would be horrified. If it was one of those where you set them each at one end of the dungeon and said, go to it, boys, they'd be horrified by the style of play and probably end up dead from the other group. Who knows? Just the way it worked. It's up to the rest of us to keep the torch burning and the beacons of light lit. Remember, Morgoth cannot create, he can only destroy. Yeah, play the game you want, espouse the opinions that you hold, promote the style of play that you like. It's all any of us can do. Okay, here's another one. They're not changing tabletop RPGs in general. They have control over their product only. Homebrews and smaller productions were doing this kind of thing before WotC started doing it too. Yeah, that's true. There'll always be a homebrew element. I feel there should be. There'll always be smaller producers putting out good stuff. Even if there is a resulting wave of homebrew in games that follows the leader, it can be a case for a while anyways, and we still had and will have our own games. Well, that was an interesting one. The rest of us can play as we please, and there are more like-minded creators going against the grain to make games how there are always like-minded creators to make games how they like them. Yeah, there's always going to be a game writer out there that says, hey, I got something that I think's pretty good, look at it. Or there'll be one that says, hey, I got something that's better, I think. Hope so. That's how we make progress in all fields. The D&D brand influences the whole market. You can bury your head in the sand if you want, but it's the truth of the matter. It does influence the market. I don't know why we want to say bury your head in the sand. I don't believe anybody was denying that. I didn't see that anyway. But yes, it does influence, but there'll always be people like Goodman Games and Frog God Games and other Kinzer with Hackmaster that'll want to do, Swords and Wizardry that want to do it their way. And there'll be people, a lot of times, those people that play it, that's what they were introduced to, and they liked it. And so they said, I don't need to play another game. I want to keep playing this. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Or maybe you experimented with 3 or 4 different ones. You tried Castles and Crusades, you tried Swords and Wizardry, you tried Hackmaster, and then came to D&D. I don't know. Everybody comes to D&D on a different path. And I'm not saying everybody has to, because all these paths lead to one thing, and that's supposed to lead to having fun. That's why we game, to have fun, make friends, share time around the table, camaraderie, friendship. That can, real friendship. Is there anything better? Let me know if you find one. Once you abandon the true evil concept, you step into a continuous moral quandary. While true evil does not exist in the real world, it is an essential component of heroic storytelling. It's possible to run a game centered on a moral conflict, but D&D isn't a game in which that works well. Vampire the something or other, VTM. Can't remember right now, and they abbreviated. My bad. You have, for example, you must feed on innocence. Well, yeah, there's some moral conflicts there too. D&D is usually heroic escapism. Evil is evil, good is good. Good triumphs over evil. Everyone gets a cookie. I like that. Yeah. We're not here to play 50 Shades of Grey. We're here to play black and white. 12 Shades of Grey, tops. The good versus evil dynamic is relatively recent in D&D. Well, before we go any farther, wrong. Earlier editions were just lawful versus chaotic. Wrong. As soon as Dragon Magazine started publishing, in fact, there might even have been an article about it in the Strategic Gamer, but I know I published the 9-point system on a chart and everything, and that was early on, so that couldn't have been more than later in 77 or the very first months of 78. And when you consider that, when you consider when D&D came out at the end of a year, January of 74, or not January, December of 74, November, something like that. It's not that long, and the game was evolving at lightning speed. This writer says the game was originally conceptualized as more of a morally gray swords and sorcery game than high fantasy. Not necessarily. No one could ever accuse either Dave or Gary of being foreign to high fantasy or, foreign to the concepts of. No. And then there was a response to this. The Law of Chaos didn't last long. It only ran from like 74 to 77. It's interesting to read Andrew Norton's Quag Keep, published in 78. It focuses on the Law of Chaos dynamic. Once the 9-pointed alignment system dropped, Law of Chaos sort of became a historical footnote. Well, no, it influences what quadrant of the 9-point you came down in. Because originally, as printed, the 9-point system was a graph. And where were you on the graph? And as the DM, the DM felt that you were drifting out of your quadrant towards another quadrant, well, then interesting things ensued. Many interesting things might have ensued. Could orcs acceptably get into the upper good planes without sieging heaven? Yeah, I like when orcs and goblins fight endlessly in their afterlife. Okay, first assumption being made here is that orcs and goblins have some sort of animating force, animus, that is equivalent of a soul. Now, if you take just Tolkien's thing about them being made out of mud and everything, okay, I don't know. Did Saruman convey to them a spark of life that gave them a soul? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Hey boys, there's meat on the menu tonight. No. Anyway, orcs and goblins fighting endlessly in their afterlife. What are they, a bunch of Vikings? I don't think so. But hey, they go fight Vikings in Valhalla, and they'll all have a hell of a good time. Next comment. I've heard a lot of stuff about this Justin. I wouldn't worry too much about him. Apparently he is unable to write a simple, grammatically correct sentence, which says much about him. Yeah, and he can't spell worth a shit either. But then in response to this, except that his vindictiveness has caused 2 Kickstarters to be delayed, gotten a con canceled, sent cops to the home of a federally subpoenaed witness in a case against him, as well as antagonized fans of RPGs across social media, attacking races, sexual identities, and people with disabilities because of some pathological need to feel superior. He is a rash in the hobby. The sooner he is bankrupted by WotC court case, the better, and the sooner he can move on to be a blessing to some other industry, profession, or social group. It took a good decade for him to give up on his political ambitions in North Carolina and Wilmington. By the end, he became universally reviled in his home community. It was only taken 3 years for him to reach that status in the gaming community. Now he just needs the equivalent of a landslide election against him, losing because of the Grits video to make him look elsewhere to be the little big man. Yeah, a lot of people share a pretty low opinion of that individual. It's WotC's art direction. Most people who this bothers quit giving WotC any money already. WotC is full-on Disneyfying itself. About the only thing I care about for WotC now is that conventions please list when WotC staff are present so I can pick another session. Yeah, and I think that's becoming a more common sentiment. And yeah, WotC's Disneyfying themselves. That art is Disney crap. And hey, if you want to play Disney crap, that's fine. Go kill the 3 pigs. Go kill the 7 dwarfs. However, the witch that poisoned Snow White might prove to be a handful. Okay. 2 things left to address. As you know, the first Wizard Tower convention, which was supposed to go this month, was canceled because of Justin's interference. However, we're going to do a virtual. I'm going to run both the the Lost Adventures, one each, and I'm going to. Oh yeah, I've got to create pre-gens for them. Anyway, I'm going to run a couple of games online. I'll do them on my Zoom channel, and we're gonna do some gaming anyway. Now, next year, okay, Wizard Con 2025. It's going to be in April. A marvelous venue has been found. They're enthusiastic supporters of games and gaming. Some of the key people in the hierarchy of the hotel are gamers. So we have an extremely sympathetic staff in a really nice hotel. The hotel has a restaurant and a pub. They're going to offer a very reasonable room rate to attendees. And the DM shirts on the back are going to say, "Stuff it, Justin." Because the con will go on. We will do it. Go to Wizard Tower Games. He has much more information on it. I'm going to ask my editor to put a link on at the end of this to shunt you over there to them if you're interested. The venue is very, very nice and not huge, which means that this is going to be a con of limited tickets. Now, we're going to use Tabletop RPGs or whatever that website is. We're going through it for all our events and for everybody to sign up. There's going to be a limited number of admissions on this first one. We're not going to shoot for the moon. We're going to, shoot the rocket downrange into the ocean and make sure it works. And we're going to limit it to about 350 tickets. That's what the venue will comfortably hold. We're going to have a lot of role-playing. We hope to have many games besides D&D, obviously. We hope to have some boards. That's going to be who wants to run them. Like most cons, if you want to run a board game, you enter in your event, and it gets scheduled, and people can sign up for it. So we're going to do role-playing. We're going to do boards. We hope to run one or two big minis games. Don't know exactly how that'll go. I'm going to invite the Fight in the Sky Society to come have a big air battle one day. So we hope to have a little bit of everything with a lot of role-playing. But it's not going to be all D&D. I know for a fact that there'll be some Mutant Crawl. There'll be at least a couple of games of Mutant Crawl Classics. And there'll be other games depending upon who wants to run what. So it will go on next year. He wins we've got him on a draw. We're going to do a virtual con this year. Okay, so up yours, Justin. The con will go on. I will keep blocking you every time you put a comment on the wall, and eventually you'll run out of Google accounts. You'll get so many Google accounts blocked, you'll no longer have access to Google, and then you can never go on YouTube again. Keep it up, boy, keep it up. And for all of you, if you're anywhere in this heat wave, hydrate, stay cool. And if you're roasting in a forest fire, you have our sympathies, get out. If you're going to be threatened by one of the tropical storms, close the windows. I mean, the weather's just turned to shit all over the place. So I can just say, I hope you weather whatever you've got coming for you. Well, I said weather the weather. Yeah, okay, it works. I hope you weather the weather that you're faced with. Stay safe. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Dodana Gobi. Hello, and welcome to my Cellar. He's the curmudgeon who
wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Curmudgeon.